Hey guys, and welcome back to the Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. Today's game up on the tabletop is called Dice Throne. Dice Throne is MBG LLC, and it is now made by Roxy, working with Roxley. There's actually season 2 out, which is kind of why I'm reviewing this game now. I got this game from PAX South, and I'm excited to tell you about it based on the fact that the new season is out, and maybe you'll be interested if I explain the original game. This game is for 2 to 6 players, takes about 20 to 40 minutes to play, and it's ages 8 to adult, which is about right. In the game, you're going to be choosing a character, and you will be attempting to roll dice to defeat your opponents. There is kind of a free-for-all aspect to it, a dueling aspect, and then a team aspect of the game. Usually it works better in pairs or single duel, but it is a fun attacking style game. You can choose to play as a paladin or a barbarian or a monk, so on and so forth. There's 6 different characters to choose from, and you can play with all 6 on the board. They also have a bunch of plethora of poison and fireballs and all crazy stuff like that you can use to defeat your opponents, as well as they all come with their own life tracker. They're all their own points tracker, all kinds of stuff. You got the combat points tracker and their own deck, and they all have their own unique set of dice with all of their own unique symbols. Anyway, enough me talking, let me go ahead and show you what it looks like. So here we have Dice Throne and everything that is included, and as you can see, you got the rules and then your own player battle boards here that'll have all the different abilities and your ultimate ability, and then your defensive roles. On this side here, it shows you all the different tokens you'll be using throughout the game, what your dice look like, and a little bit of backstory, as well as your title, your character name. Over here, he's got some interesting stuff. Now, every character is going to have one of these little pull-out trays here, their own unique 5 set of dice that all have different symbols on them. They're going to have a combat tracker tracker or whatever, the health tracker over here, and then of course their own reference card and their own deck of cards. You've got a rogue, you got a paladin, you got a mage, you got a monk, all sorts of stuff. This little baggie here is going to come with a plethora of tokens too you'll be using, you'll be putting on this board over here. So this is the basic idea of everything you're going to be getting in the game. So to begin setup for the game, all you need to do is give yourself a player board, all the different things that are going to come in these little trays here, and then set up your little side character board with all the different tokens and whatnot. The gameplay is fairly simple. You're going to start the players off with about 50 health, 2 combat points, 4 cards in their hand, and then you're going to choose a first player. When you choose a first player, they don't get an income phase. And the income phase tells you on these little reference sheet cards over here. It says you remove all the applicable status effects, and then you gain a CP and draw cards. So you wouldn't do that in the first turn. You do your main phase, and then your offensive, your targeting, your defensive, and another main phase. For your main phase, it's going to be simply to roll dice, kind of like Yahtzee, choosing spaces on your board to either, to basically power up. You could also choose to play ability cards and whatnot. And, technically your main phase is going to be playing cards and whatnot. Then you have the offensive roll phase, which is going to be throwing dice around. Then the targeting phase, depending on if there's more than 2 players, you have to roll the die to see where you're going to be fighting. And then your defensive roll, which is where the opponent is going to roll their defense dice based on the number of die they can roll based on what their defense ability is. Sometimes the defense ability is actually an offense ability. Then there's another main phase where you can play additional cards and whatnot, and then your discard phase, sell all cards beyond 6 that are in your hand. After that, it's going to go to the next player, and it's going to rinse and repeat, but I'll go ahead and show you how the turns work down below. It's more easy to explain that way. So here's the game all set up. I've chosen the Moon Elf and the Barbarian to show you a little bit of how the game's going to be played and set up. This is the little character sheets here. You got the character boards, their dice, their combat points. They start with 2 piece, they start with 50 health, and they start with a stack of cards. They're also going to get 4 cards in their hand to begin the game. If you're playing a basic game where you're just learning, you would start with, I think, no combat points, 30 health, and no cards in your hand. Over here is going to be everything like I showed the references, as well as putting all your little chits on here so that you can use them for your different abilities, and it's going to be affecting this board here basically. To begin the game, if you're starting, like this player here is starting, they are going to then ignore their income step, which in general, an income step is pretty simple, removing and resolving all your stuff first would happen during your upkeep, and then you're going to do simply gain a CP, right? You go from 2 to 3, and then you would draw a card from your deck. However, you're going to ignore this on the first turn. Going straight to the main phase where you're able to play any abilities or upgraded abilities from your hand, and you look at your hand of cards here and tell you how much CP it costs to play them. So if you want to play these guys here, for instance, 2 CP, you could spend 2 CP, and what status effects, right? and it'll tell you remove all status effects from a specific player, or if you maybe have an upgrade in here somewhere. I don't think we do. Wait, Moon Magic maybe? Let's see here. No, this one just says gain evasive, inflict all this stuff onto your opponent. So that's nasty, but no, it's not. But there we will find, basically, there's going to be some upgrades. This here is a roll phase action that will happen. You can use it for 1 CP, and this one here, bye-bye, removes 1 status effect from a specific player, which is pretty good in team games as well. But none of these are going to be really useful for her turn. Then I was looking for an upgrade, but oh well. Let me see if I can find one really quick. Here's an upgrade right here. This would cost you 2 CP. And it would change Longbow, which is this one over here, into Longbow 2. You don't need to have Longbow 2 to do 3. You can just do 3 instead of 2 if you have that in your hand. Some of the abilities are able to upgrade more than once. And if you already have 3 on the board, you won't need 2. So you can sell cards as well to gain CP. So if you don't want a card, maybe you don't want this Moon Magic card, you can get rid of it, and that will give you a CP, which you can then use for other cards during your different action phases. Offensive rolling is going to be just like Yahtzee. You roll, and then you check around the board, and it tells you what you need here. There's 2 moons and an arrow, 3 feet, 2 arrows. So that's pretty good, right? And try and go for that. Oh, there we go. That'd be my second roll. I could roll one more time if I wanted to, but I could keep this here. I then place this on here to say this is what I'm doing. I'm going to gain evasive, which means I look over here and I gain this little piece here. Whatever it does, they all do different things, and deal 7 damage to my opponent. My opponent is then going to counter with a defensive roll if it's just a 2-player game. If it's not, then you're going to roll the dice to see who you're targeting, 1 through 3 to your left, to 4 to 6 on your right. But if it's just a 2-player game, we ignore that and we go to the defensive roll, and it tells you, this guy says roll 3 dice, and for every heal, you get to heal 2 times for every heart you get. Oh, bam, so I get to heal 2 health. So I'm going to take a total of 5. So I would take my chart here, right here, and I'd go down to 45 health. Right, like that. There we go. And then, if you wanted to, or she wanted to, depending, you would go ahead and play any other cards. Maybe you want to play a card that hurts somebody, maybe you want to save these for later, that's up to you, but you could do that in order to do more damage to Mr. Barbarian over here. Then, after that, the main phase will begin again, and she can do anything she wants with her cards or whatever, and these are done, so she can go put these back here, and then you go to the discard phase. If she has more than 6 cards in her hand, she's going to discard and gain combat points for doing so. Next would be the Barbarian's turn, and in this case he'd actually do the income, which would move his 2 to a 3 for combat points. We give him another card to draw from his hand, and he's got some cool stuff as well. Roll phase action card. This is a upgrade here. Vegas baby. Roll a die, gain half the value as CP. That's pretty cool. That's free too. I'll just go ahead and play that. Roll a die. 5. So I'm going to gain half rounded up, so I gain 3 CP, going up to 6 here. Pretty good, if you do say so myself. And maybe I'll play this Recklessness card here and upgrade it right there. It'll cost me 2. Alright, now this is a stronger ability here. And maybe I'll keep these guys for later. And so on and so forth, right? You go out to the main phase, you would go ahead and you'd roll your offensive, and you're trying to match these things here. This is your basic attack. And these guys are kind of these guys are more interesting than not. They have different weird abilities that happen usually here. Then you've got your other damaging abilities that also kind of influence maybe poison and whatnot, depending on the character you're playing. This over here is always going to be your defensive roll. It might help you heal. This one actually has you do damage and can prevent half damage on 2 feet. And sometimes certain characters are actually going to have multiple defensive rolls, and you can choose between them. Let's see if I can find one. This guy, for instance, right here, the Shadow Thief, can choose this one or this one, and then you do the effects based on how many dice you're rolling, what it says you can do. Nevertheless, you keep going until somebody goes to 0 health, and when that happens, game over. Don't forget, though, you can play a 2v2 or an all-out battle if you want. It doesn't matter as long as you're having fun. And that's how you play Dice Throne. The game's about chucking dice and hitting people. And, I mean, it's a lot of fun. I love this game. I have always loved games like this Yahtzee-style feel. Feels like King of Tokyo. It reminds me of a game called Elements that was up here at one point. Basically just chucking dice, attaching them to different abilities, and hitting your opponents over the head with them. The unique thing about this game is going to be the cards, as well as the ability to roll your defensive abilities, and then you have an ultimate ability as well. To get an ultimate, though, it's very difficult. This shows that you need 5 of these little stars here. So basically, you can only get it by rolling 5 6s. So it's like Yahtzee, but it's a specific Yahtzee, which makes it very hard. However, you have your deck of cards here that lets you do certain things. 6-It is one of those cards that lets you switch a die of any type to a 6. Some other ones will let you move it up by up 1, or tip it, increase or decrease the value of a die by 1. There's a bunch of different things you can do to try and change the outcome of your rolls with the cards available to you in your hand. And with that is going to be some super powerful stuff. Also, another interesting thing too about it is you're going to have a bunch of different characters, and they all have their own unique dice as well as their own unique symbols, which is really cool because you can make these symbols applicable to other characters later on. Now, there's a season 2 coming out, and I'm excited to see that game as well. I think really it's going to be more of the same, so if you already have this game and you don't enjoy it, probably not something you're just going to want to get for season 2. But if you do enjoy it, and I think most people do enjoy it because this game is gangbusters, it's so much fun, then I would definitely suggest checking out the new season 2, as well as picking up the original game, because you can mix and match them as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't matter because it's just different players the way you put them together. The artwork is great, the dice rolling is great, it's fluid, it's solid, it's great. Check it out.